Before the screams echoed through palace walls, before rivers turned red and children disappeared in the night, there was a boy, a prince, born into silk, ceremony, and superstition. His name was Emperor Elzek, a name nearly erased from history. But the blood remembers, in the heart of a forgotten mountain kingdom, wedged between myth and geography. Elzek was crowned at just 13. His father had died mysteriously. Poison, perhaps. Maybe divine punishment. No one spoke openly, but in private chambers, they whispered, "This family is cursed." And Elzek believed it. From his first day on the throne, he was obsessed with mortality. Not with conquering enemies, not with expanding land, but with death and how to defeat it. The court astrologers spoke of stars that never died. Elzek wanted that. He demanded nightly readings, dream rituals, animal sacrifices. But nothing soothed the creeping dread that he, too, would one day rot. And then something changed. It began with a prophecy. An old shaman, dragged in from the northern marshes, blind in one eye, skin like cracked parchment. She said Elzek would burn like a star forever, but only if fed with crimson light. He didn't laugh. He executed her priest handlers and promoted the shaman to royal seer. Under her direction, strange practices seeped into the palace. Bathtubs of cow's blood, incense made from bone dust. Elzek would lock himself in his chambers for days, chanting, muttering, painting cryptic symbols on the walls with his own blood. What was once ritual became addiction, and when animal offerings stopped working, he made the jump. Servants went missing. Their families were silenced. When questioned, the emperor replied with a smile, "The gods accept only human vessels." And so began his transformation. Over the next 10 years, Elzek morphed from mortal ruler to something darker. An icon of fear, clad in crimson robes, his pale face smeared with dried blood. He ordered an underground chamber built beneath the palace, its walls lined with spikes, drainage systems, and silver chalices. The people began calling it the Red Sanctum. He called it his womb of rebirth. Every full moon, he descended into it, alone, emerging hours later soaked and silent. They said his skin began to glow. His eyes shimmered like oil on water. Some even swore he stopped aging. Was it illusion? Was it darkness playing tricks? Or had he truly found the secret to immortality? He stopped sleeping in beds, slept upright in a coffin-shaped throne, began claiming visions from the blood realm, a shadow world where ancestors spoke in screams. But the emperor's madness didn't stay contained. He made blood rituals mandatory for nobles, a drop from every heir, a basin in every manor. You share your lifeblood, he decreed, or the gods will take it whole. Civil servants resigned, artists fled, priests vanished, and yet the people obeyed. Because fear, when repeated long enough, becomes law. Those who disobeyed were never seen again. Those who complied were given titles, lands, and the false promise of protection. But behind the gold-trimmed lies, something darker stirred. A resistance was growing. Quiet, careful, but resolute. Because while Elzek may have feared death, the people feared living under him even more. The Red Sanctum was no longer myth. It was real. Beneath layers of marble, beneath the throne itself, hid a cathedral of agony. And its heartbeat was human. After years of hushed suspicion, one guard, just 16, leaked a whisper to a temple scribe. There are hooks on the ceiling, bowls that catch the blood. The scribe vanished 2 days later. The guard? Found dead in the royal lake, his body drained, his skin pale as wax. The message was clear: truth bleeds. Inside the palace, Elzek's rituals were evolving. What had started as symbolic became surgical. The emperor believed the gods required purity, and the purest blood, he declared, was that of children. No one dared argue. He called it the Crimson Offering, a rite designed to please ancient deities lost to time. According to the emperor's new doctrine, these forgotten gods had once ruled the stars and fed on the souls of mortals. By bathing in innocence, Elzek believed he could channel their eternal life force. And so, the temple girls were taken. The altar boys, the orphans, the infants of peasants who owed unpaid taxes, they all vanished into the tunnels beneath the palace, never to return. Their absence was explained as holy pilgrimages. Their families were gifted silence, or the sword. Priests, once symbols of healing, became curators of death. Dressed in red robes stitched with human hair, they recited incantations in a forgotten tongue. Ritual knives forged from meteorite glinted in the torchlight. Each ceremony followed a pattern. The victim was blessed in sacred oils, laid on a black marble slab. A vein was opened, slowly. The blood was collected in ceremonial goblets. And Elzek, bare-chested, pupils blown wide, would step into a pool of their life force, whispering, "Let it feed me." He claimed it gave him visions. He began predicting eclipses with terrifying accuracy. He named hidden cities buried beneath desert sands. And when a foreign army approached the border, Elzek foretold the hour they'd arrive and unleashed a preemptive strike that annihilated them. The people, already trembling, became believers. Even skeptics bowed, because power, when wrapped in prophecy, is impossible to ignore. But what no one saw, what even Elzek tried to hide, were the side effects. His skin, though unwrinkled, took on a waxen sheen. His voice, once commanding, became brittle, cracked like burning wood. And his body grew cold. So cold, in fact, that palace fires were stoked year-round, and yet he still shivered beneath layers of red silk. Some said the blood was preserving him. Others whispered it was replacing him. Regardless, he pressed forward. In secret scrolls discovered years later, scrawled in his own hand, Elzek wrote, "Death has no patience. I must feed faster. More. Always more." And he did. The palace dungeons became a slaughterhouse. The rituals grew larger, louder, more theatrical. Screams became background noise. His throne was modified, embedded with drain holes that funneled blood directly into hidden basins beneath. But not everyone in the court remained silent. One advisor, Lord Mirith, dared to question the need for another mass ritual during a harvest famine. Elzek ordered him flayed. Alive, his skin was stretched and nailed to the walls of the sanctum. A reminder, Elzek said, that doubt is the true disease. From that day forward, no voice of dissent ever rose again. But beneath the terror, a shift was happening. Unrest brewed in the outer provinces. Farmers spoke of crops failing despite ritual blessings. Mothers hid their children when temple guard arrived. Smugglers began trading forged documents to help people escape the capital. And in the north, in frozen caverns once sealed by royal decree, something ancient stirred. Something Elzek had tried to bury long ago when he was still mortal. Because even a god king has secrets, especially when he's built his empire on bones. The streets of the capital had become a living nightmare. Shadows lengthened not just with the setting sun, but with the weight of dread that gripped every soul. Statues of Elzek adorned every square, his face carved in unsettling detail. Pale, eyes hollow yet burning with unnatural fire. The people called him the Blood Emperor, a name whispered in terror rather than reverence. Markets once bustling with life now echoed hollow, as merchants feared the emperor's spies, rogue priests who prowled in crimson cloaks, watching and reporting every whispered word. The city was trapped in a suffocating silence, broken only by the distant wails from the dungeons below. Within the palace, the Red Sanctum had grown into a labyrinth of horrors. Endless corridors lined with chains, dripping blood, and carved symbols that seemed to pulse with malevolence. Here, nobles, criminals, and unlucky peasants alike vanished without a trace, dragged into the abyss of ritual sacrifice. But it was not just physical torment that gripped the kingdom. It was the psychological. Families were torn apart by paranoia. Friends grew suspicious of each other. A simple cough in the wrong place could lead to arrest. Accusations flew like arrows, many driven by fear or personal grudges. No one was safe. Children slept with knives beneath their pillows. Mothers hid their sons and daughters in cellars. hoping to keep them away from the emperor's ever-watchful eyes. Even the royal court was not immune. Courtiers wore masks of forced loyalty, masking the tremors of terror beneath. Plots and betrayals swirled in whispered conversations behind closed doors as everyone sought favor or survival. Elzek's own council dwindled as trusted advisors disappeared overnight, victims of his suspicion and rage. Yet Elzek remained a chilling enigma. His public appearances were rare and disturbing. Draped in blood-red robes, he moved with an unnatural grace, his skin eerily smooth and cold as marble. His eyes, once vibrant, now seemed sunken and void of humanity, as if the life inside him was slowly draining away. Rumors spread of how the emperor bathed in human blood to preserve his cursed existence, a practice so horrifying that few dared speak its truth aloud. It was said that each bath prolonged his life but twisted his soul, binding him tighter to a dark force that was neither divine nor mortal. Despite the growing terror, the people whispered of miracles too. Crops, once failing, now flourished mysteriously near the palace grounds. The city's enemies seemed hesitant, as if the emperor wielded powers beyond mortal men. Some believed Elzek was truly immortal, a god walking among them. Others feared he was something far worse, a living curse destined to drag the kingdom into eternal darkness. Amidst this climate of fear, a secret faction emerged. Known only as the Crimson Veil, this underground resistance was made up of those brave or desperate enough to challenge the emperor's reign. Former priests, disillusioned nobles, and common folk alike risked everything to uncover the truth and stop the bloodshed. Their leader, a woman named Kayla, had lost her entire family to the emperor's rituals. Once a priestess herself, she knew the sanctum's secrets and the emperor's vulnerabilities. Quiet and calculating, Kayla became the beacon of hope for those suffocating under Elzek's terror. Yet their missions were perilous. The sanctum's guards were ruthless, trained to hunt dissenters without mercy. Every failed attempt ended in horrific executions that only fueled the emperor's bloodlust. And while the Crimson Veil grew bolder, so did Elzek's paranoia. He ordered the construction of a massive wall encircling the palace, topped with iron spikes dripping with poison. Inside, new chambers were carved, more sinister and elaborate than ever before, designed to imprison not just bodies but souls. But Kayla knew this was only the beginning, because in the darkest corners of the kingdom, where sunlight never reached, an ancient power was awakening, one that could either save the people or doom them all. The Blood Emperor's grip was tightening, and time was running out. As Elzek's obsession with immortality deepened, cracks began to fracture the once mighty empire. The people's whispered prayers turned into desperate cries for salvation. The lands beyond the capital grew restless, and rival factions sensed weakness beneath the emperor's bloody veneer. The Crimson Veil's acts of defiance multiplied. Sabotage of supply lines, freeing of captives, and secret gatherings that rekindled hope in a dark world. Kayla's leadership galvanized the fractured resistance, turning scattered sparks into a roaring blaze. But Elzek was no ordinary tyrant. His bloodbaths had granted him unnatural foresight, visions that haunted his every waking moment. He saw his empire burning, his throne shattered, and his name buried in shame. Yet, blinded by madness and fear, he responded with unparalleled cruelty. He unleashed the Night of the Red Moon, a cataclysmic purge where thousands were dragged into the sanctum, their blood spilled in an orgy of sacrifice meant to cleanse his power. Entire districts were razed, families vanished overnight. The city drowned in rivers of crimson and despair. However, this brutal act only ignited rebellion further. Regional governors, tired of serving a mad emperor, defected. They allied with neighboring kingdoms, forming a coalition fueled by shared horror and hunger for justice. Armies marched toward the capital, their banners stained with defiance. Inside the palace, paranoia reached a fever pitch. Elzek trusted no one. His closest advisors were executed on mere suspicion, The Red Sanctum became a prison for his own mind, where whispers of betrayal echoed louder than chants of worship. In the final days, Elzek was a shadow of the god-king he once aspired to be, his flesh pale and cold, eyes glassy and unseeing, yet his grip on power was ironclad. He refused to surrender, declaring himself eternal, untouched by time or death. The coalition armies breached the city gates amid chaos and bloodshed. The palace fell into ruins, flames consuming the hallways where centuries of dark secrets had been kept. They drag him to the ancient tombs beneath the city, a place rumored to bind souls and spirits. There, in a ceremony meant to seal his fate, the emperor was confined to a coffin carved with the very symbols he once painted in blood. His last words were a curse, a vow that death was not the end, and that his thirst for immortality would haunt the world forever. Historians later attempted to erase the horrors of Elzek's reign. Official records painted him as a wise ruler who fell victim to tragic circumstances. But the people remembered. The scars, the whispers, and the disappearances continued long after his fall. For some, the nightmare had only begun. Long after Emperor Elzek's coffin was sealed beneath the crumbling palace, rumors persisted. Whispers spread that his soul was not at rest, bound by the dark rituals that had stolen his humanity, and perhaps his very death itself. Villagers near the ancient tombs told tales of flickering lights in the dead of night, and low, mournful chants drifting through the cold mountain air. Some claimed to see a shadowy figure wandering the ruins, eyes glowing like embers in the darkness. Over the centuries, bodies continued to vanish. Travelers, tomb robbers, and even priests who dared to enter forbidden chambers. The locals called it the Blood Emperor's Curse, a lingering hunger that could never be sated, a thirst for life that transcended death. Archaeologists who dared explore the underground labyrinth uncovered strange artifacts, bones etched with cryptic symbols, pools stained with dried blood, and ancient scrolls warning of a guardian beyond the grave, who demanded sacrifice to keep the world balanced. Skeptics dismissed these as superstition, yet the disappearances remained unexplained. Some even reported finding fresh blood stains in sealed chambers, as if the curse was still alive. Modern historians speculate that Elzek's quest for immortality was more than madness. It was a gateway to something darker, a portal between worlds that should never have been opened. And so, the legend endures, a story of power corrupted, of humanity consumed by fear, and of a man who tried to cheat death, but instead became its eternal prisoner. The Blood Emperor's reign may have ended centuries ago, but his curse, like the blood that stained his throne, runs deep, a chilling reminder that some evils never truly die. And somewhere, beneath the earth, the crimson light still pulses.